Hey everyone, my name is Jack Austin and I'm the voice of Just In Case, one of the main characters in the comedic audio drama Cop Doctors. Cop Doctors is a 7 Lamb series following Just In Case and Just In Time as they try to bounce back and forth between arresting criminals and saving lives. So if you like goofy, fun, and raunchy podcasts, visit 7lamb.com or search for Cop Doctors wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, don't forget to rate and review.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Will There Be Cake? I'm Robert Lamb, and that over there is Amber Simpson, capital A, capital S.
Hi, yep.
Amber Simpson is... Oh, I'm turning on things.
What is that noise?
There's the metronome.
Nice.
Just turning on everything, and then Amber said, nice.
Nice.
Oh, just turn it on again.
Did it again.
All right, probably messing up this whole recording, but it's worth it
fine.
because that's the intro. Welcome to Will There Be Cake? We're here to celebrate a fascinating day, and no, it's not keyboard day or computer typing day, but it's very similar. It's screenwriting day, right?
Screenwriting day.
Wowzers.
Wowzers. Screet Bowsers.
So, what is a screenwrite?
I don't know. You help me figure that out. So I know, like, screenwriters they're really important, right? But is it the script writers?
Yeah.
It's the
they're
same?
just called screenwriters, yeah.
Okay.
Because they're writing for the screen.
Okay.
No, it's a script.
So they take a story and then write it in a way that it can be filmed.
Well, or they make up their own story.
Or they're
Any
the
kind of
ones
script.
that write the story.
Yeah. Any kind of script
Okay.
making is technically screenwriting.
Do they do both things though? Like, do they take story? Is it just the
You mean
person who writes
adaptations?
the story?
Yeah, it's whoever writes the story is the screenwriter. So if like you're writing for a script format for the screen, whether it's an adaptation or your own, your own story, it's still a script and it's still part of the screenwriting process.
Okay. Yeah. So I think this holiday was created because screenwriters need more appreciation. A lot of times when people see a movie, they think the director,
Right.
is the one who puts it all together. But when you think of Steven Spielberg, you think of Saving Private Ryan, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., The Extraterrestrial. But it was really the screenwriters who
Yeah, a lot of times
made that movie what they are.
yeah, a lot of well, it depends because there are some directors that write their own work.
Yeah.
Tarantino, for one, is known for writing, all the stuff he shoots.
Right.
Or at least all of his movies. But basically there are a lot of directors that just take scripts from actual screenwriters because there's a lot of screenwriters one of the most famous that I can think of right now is David Koepp, who wrote Jurassic Park, The Lost World. He actually has a cameo in The Lost World where he gets eaten by the T-Rex.
Oh, wow.
He wrote Spider-Man, Stir of Echoes. I don't know how many scripts he's partaken, in the sense of there's some that he writes, and screenwriting is such a weird process that a lot of times one script can actually have 3 or 4 screenwriters because they'll redo parts of it or have revisions.
Yeah,
and stuff.
plus they'll have people who depending on the topic of the movie who will just do research,
Right.
So they write the right things about the
Yeah,
movie to be filmed.
That's one thing I always found. There are obviously screenwriters will do research and if they're writing for a cop part, they might go and see if they can call local law enforcement and sit around with a cop for a while. Yeah, just to kind of get or interview somebody and get some tips and stuff. There's a lot of a lot that goes into the process of screenwriting, but I do know that there's a lot of writers who get upset because, for one, screenwriters really don't get paid that much.
Yeah.
When it comes to how much money goes into a movie.
Exactly.
They get paid so like.
And how much the actors and the directors get paid compared
Yeah,
to
I mean, they
them,
get
probably.
millions. Screenwriters don't get millions.
That's
like,
so sad. They should get paid the most.
They should get paid at least a decent. They should get paid. I mean, especially if it's a big budget or something like that.
Acting is. I mean, acting and directing, like they're both really
important. But
important
if you don't have,
and not easy, but still.
I believe it was Sid Field, or maybe he was quoting someone when he said, like, you can make a bad movie from a good script, but you can't make a good movie from a bad script.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like the screenwriting process is like super important. And while it might go through a lot of changes, the person who originally writes it and stuff like they should get paid a decent amount. I think the average, and this was probably like back when I was in college, so maybe like 10 years ago, I think the average at that point was $200,000 for a script, which is like a decent amount of money, but sometimes people spend like years on a script, but it's like $200,000. And they said that every once in a while you would get like a big movie, like M. Night Shyamalan would come along and he would write The Sixth Sense, and he actually got paid. I mean, he ended up directing it too, but he got paid, I think, $1.6 million for that script.
Jesus.
They just said like, but that doesn't happen all the
Yeah.
time. Now, if you're more well known, obviously, like somebody like David Koepp probably does get paid pretty well, but it's hard for a lot of screenwriters and stuff. That's why there's so many writer strikes.
Yeah.
Like, that happens a lot.
Yeah, that does happen a lot. Something Alfred Hitchcock said was, to make a great film, you need three things: the script, and the script.
Yeah. That's a pretty good one, because Alfred Hitchcock didn't really write his stuff.
No, he's just a
He was
director.
just a director.
Yeah.
Now, he might have changed a few things here and there, but for the most part, he just, he used what was on the page.
But he appreciated those screenwriters.
Right, because he
like.
knew it was important.
Yeah.
I think I forget his name, but the guy who wrote North by Northwest, a lot of people consider him one of the best screenwriters. And then I think it was Robert Towne who wrote Chinatown, and I've read multiple occasions that a lot of people consider Chinatown to be one of the best written movies of all time.
Wow.
So I could be wrong with the name, but I think it was Robert Towne. And Chinatown is a really good one, and that was in one of my screenplay books that I read called Screenplay by Sid Field, which is like taught in a lot of schools.
Nice. Ryan Reynolds, the actor, made a speech. I think he was accepting an award somewhere. He said, screenwriters are a hugely undervalued asset in Hollywood. They're architects. They make us look good. Oftentimes their jobs are very hard. They're alone in rooms in their underwear, weeping softly with their tears, working as lube for their old-fashioned typewriter machines. So I accept this on the behalf of screenwriters.
I mean, it makes sense. It's funny because like every screenwriter, it's kind of like with every director and every person. It's just like they all have like their different ways of writing, right? Or getting the job done. Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream, among other horror films and stuff like that, like he locked himself. I think he was the one who locked himself in his shed or his basement or something like that for 3 days. He said, for this whole week, and I'm not coming out of here until I have this script done.
Yeah.
And he did, and he wrote it, and he just sat there and wrote it. But to his credit, I think they knew Wes Craven was going to direct it. So in parts of the screenplay, when it came to like a scary moment, he would just write, "This is where Wes Craven makes it scary," and then
Oh
just
my
keep
God,
going.
that's
So like
awesome.
they just knew. So it probably was a little bit of an easier process because he knew
Right.
who was taking the reins at that point. But I just think it's crazy that he just three days. Other people, the guy who wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I forget his name. It took him years to like write that script. It's just crazy, like the amount of work that goes into it.
Because you put like a lot of, like I've seen your scripts, and it's different because it's a podcast, so you can't really, unless you have someone narrating what's going on in the visual world, you don't need that in your scripts.
Right.
But in a normal, like a screenwriter is writing a script for a movie, you do include that kind of stuff, right? Or not
Yeah.
always?
Well, so you include it in like the action line. Like you'll put like so and so walks down the street. It's a gloomy day. Blah blah blah. Like what's going on? Like, but you're not as descriptive as if you're writing a book.
Okay.
You're kind of trying to
That's
like
more the director's job.
Yeah, you're kind of giving like and I've seen different scripts, and some people do write more than others, but a lot of times I just see like a paragraph or two that are just like, this is setting up the scene.
Yeah.
Here's the dialogue, blah, blah. And another thing that I've heard is that a lot of times screenwriters will put underneath, like you put in quotation marks if you want a line read a certain way. So like if somebody's saying something, but it's supposed to be like sarcastic, you put sarcastically underneath.
Okay.
So that way people, the director knows that he's being sarcastic and not being truthful or whatever. But I remember one screenwriter in one of the books, 'cause I've read several books on screenwriting, but one of them said he got to the point where he just kept writing wryly, which is kind of like almost like a little bit like sarcastic, like a dry wit.
Okay.
He was writing that under almost every line just because that's how the character talked. And he just said, you know what, why am I doing this? He's like, let the director just take care of it. So he deleted them all and just was like, the director will know what to do with this scene. And a lot of times they say like, yeah, just you got to find a good like medium ground of like giving the director some idea of what's going on,
Right.
but not directing it.
Yeah.
Because you're not the director.
Yeah, you're not the director.
So it's...
Which is kind of even a scary thing for screenwriters. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because they probably sell their scripts.
And then that's it.
And then that's it. They have no other part of it. But if you're like,
yeah.
I mean, sometimes they probably do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you really have to be, have a love for what you do as a screenwriter. So I can imagine there's probably some out there that are like, it would be really nice to have this director because I know they will understand my script and like put it out the best way that they can.
It's interesting, too, because a lot of times studios will just buy the scripts and like your script may never get made. Yeah. They'll just sit on a shelf. Jaws was a script that was written and was literally just sitting on the desk, and Steven Spielberg came in to talk to his agent or whatever, and it was just sitting there, and he just saw it, and he was like, what's this? Like, it just said Jaws. He's like, oh, it's this movie. So he's like, I'm going home and read it.
I'll do it.
But a lot of times directors will change things and make notes, or they'll add a scene or delete a scene. But like once a screenwriter, if you're just a screenwriter and you sell that script, that's it. Your baby's gone. And actually one of the biggest problems with screenwriters, and I think why like there's a writers guild and all that stuff, is that when they would sell the script, a lot of times it would get kind of butchered in the production process, and there would be new scenes added or taken out, or dialogue would change because an actor would come in and be like, I'm not saying that, do this. Yeah. And the director would be like, well, I can't shoot that. What if we do this? And they would butcher the whole thing. And then at the very end of the product, when the movie came out, the screenwriter would be like, none of that is what I wrote. They just took the main storyline and then they just did all this stuff, but he would still get the credit. Yeah. And sometimes screenwriters would be like, I don't even want the credit for that shit.
That's not what I wrote.
Like, I think it was like a Resident Evil movie or an Alien versus Predator or something like that, where he's just like, I don't want the credit for this crap. Like, I don't want it. It sucks.
Yeah, that does suck.
Yeah. But that's just all part of show business, baby.
Show business, baby.
But yeah, I do like screenwriting, so that's my whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it says to get facts in a screenplay right, screenwriters are assisted by researchers of that subject. And to come up with the final draft, screenwriters often work with squeezed timelines and keep their creative juices flowing.
See, that's the problem with my writing right now. It's like for the audio dramas, when I'm writing, I don't know how the FBI really works, so I have to like watch things. Like I have to like watch.
Same with like End of All Hope. I'm like, you had to have done some like research on
environmentalists and stuff like that.
Shit.
Yeah, I had to look up different things and different animals.
I tried to get Adam. I'm like, Adam, you should. He's kind of hesitant to listen to it for different reasons, but I'll tell you later. But he was like, I was like, you should listen to it just because I want to see like how well Robert did at like environmentalist shit. I just want to hear your input of it. I'm like, it sounds really good to me.
That's the thing is like, I just want it to sound good. Like sometimes I don't care if it's completely accurate because I don't know.
Right.
But if it sounds right, and like this whole new season of Paralyzed, which is our horror fiction, takes place a lot of like investigation with like the FBI and cops and stuff. So I realized I wrote something that was out of somebody's jurisdiction. I'm like, does that happen? Like, can they go outside their jurisdiction? I'm like, let me check to make sure. And I looked it up, and sometimes they actually do. Yeah. They can lend help in other areas and stuff, especially if crimes cross lines and stuff. Lines, so I had to I looked up all of that, and I looked up the FBI. And one of the things was I was taking a lot of inspiration from Mindhunter because I really liked Mindhunter. But Mindhunter takes place in the 70s. Yeah. A lot of the stuff that happened then didn't happen now. So I realized that halfway through writing an episode. I'm like, wait a second. So I looked it up. I'm like, yeah, they don't. they don't have a field office there anymore. They don't do that there. They don't do training. I'm like, ugh. So I had to fix all that. Now, I don't know if people really care that much when it comes to an audio drama, and I'm not necessarily getting paid for these scripts.
Right,
it's
exactly.
just, you know.
Maybe someday you will.
Yeah, we'll see. But it's a fun process nonetheless.
Okay, I got some fun facts, interesting facts about Screenwriters Day.
Cool.
William Broyles Jr. is a screenwriter for Castaway, and he stranded himself on an isolated beach as part of his research for the movie.
Nice.
Ben Affleck discontinued college after his early draft on Good Will Hunting's screenplay was mocked by his teacher.
Jeez.
Poor guy. Half of the writers gain no income for their writing every year.
Yeah, that sucks.
For a screenwriter, drama is one of the tough genres as to sell, as they are not based on the pitch but the execution.
Yeah.
A screenplay can take up to 1 or 2 years depending on the writing and rewriting. And a famous American author and screenwriter sought to learn screenwriting after acquiring 2 Oscars for his work Godfather. The first chapter of the book on screenwriting asked its readers to study Godfather 1.
Yeah. I mean, I still...
So he got 2 Oscars before he even... What?
Say it again.
It says, the famous American author and screenwriter sought to learn screenwriting after acquiring 2 Oscars for his work Godfather. The first chapter of the book on screenwriting asked its readers to study Godfather 1. That sentence is weird.
Yeah.
So did he get an Oscar before he was a screenwriter? Or before he acquired 2?
Maybe before he studied screenwriting.
It doesn't say who the person is, so I'm confused. Okay. Whatever.
I mean, I don't think it's the guy who wrote the book, Mario Capuzzo or whatever his name is, but...
Yeah, I don't know.
What was I going to say? I did take one screenwriting class in college. It was like an elective class, but I was like, I'm just going to try it. And I remember taking it, and at this point, I was already kind of learning a lot about screenwriting on my own time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was using Final Draft, which a lot of people use for
Right.
screenwriting because it's just an easier program and everything. And I remember the teacher was like, I brought that up because he was like, when you're doing it in Word, make sure you format it this way, and
Right.
you know, you're hitting tab and doing all this stuff. I'm like, can I just use Final Draft? I use Final Draft. And he's like, no. I'm like, come on, man. So I had to go through and you have to like reformat it because the
like what in
dialogue's
the
always
real
in the center.
world
Yeah.
you're not going to have access to Final Draft and
It's
have to write it on Word?
It's like
That's
my
so
teacher
stupid.
in 8th grade telling us we had to write everything in ink and in cursive because we were going to use that for the rest of our lives.
Or
and, like,
doing
never
math
did.
problems by hand because
Yeah.
you're not going to have a calculator.
Yeah, it's just like, come
When?
on, guys.
When
like,
are you never going to have a calculator?
think about the future, man. Jesus.
I get it. It works your brain more and makes you smarter, but still.
I mean, I guess, but to me, it was taken away from like the creativity part of it because
No,
I'm
you're
worried
right.
about like there's a lot you had to like format, like, you know, your certain words have to be capitalized. You have to format all the dialogue in the center and it can't go too far. And
Yeah.
like, it was just a pain, especially in Microsoft Word back then.
So I think some ways you can celebrate today is maybe find out who the screenwriters are of some of your favorite movies and TV shows, so you can kind of appreciate them even more for, you know, doing the screenwriting of your favorite stuff.
Yeah.
Or leave them a thank you note on social media if they're in there.
There's a lot of screenwriters who will do like multiple movies that you won't even like realize that it's all them.
Yeah. I'm going to look it up because I don't think I've ever paid attention to screenwriters.
Yeah, most people don't. I mean, they're not on the, they're not in front of the camera, so it just makes sense.
Let's see. I'm going to look up. Well, it's kind of hard. See, because like some of my favorite movies are like books or comics or something before they were movies. So I feel like they're the screenwriters of some of my favorite movies were just probably reworking them.
I mean,
Because like one of my favorite movies is Scott Pilgrim,
yeah,
but that was a comic book, and it's pretty much
that's
just
an adaptation, but
yeah.
it's like it's still.
But let's see who the screenwriter is if your internet lets me load it.
I'm trying to look at what's his name? Let's see.
Okay, I'm going to read. So there is a nationalscreenwritersday.com website. So there's like a bunch of updates and interviews from some of the best screenwriters in the industry. They do some events today. You can go on there, check it out.
Nice.
Maybe write your own screenplay for a story of your choice today, or take a screenwriting class.
Yeah. It's
It's a good way to celebrate.
So let me see. Ernest.
Oh,
I'll tell you who my favorite
screenwriter
is, but after I say this one real quick. Ernest Lehman. He wrote North by Northwest, which is my favorite Hitchcock movie, but he also wrote West Side Story, The Sound of Music, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf,
Oh wow.
Sweet Smell of Success, The King and I, Sabrina, Hello Dolly. I mean, he like wrote a lot of like classics and stuff. But my probably my favorite screenwriter is also one of my favorite directors, and he does both in it a lot of times. But his name is Billy Wilder.
Oh, I know Billy Wilder.
Yeah, Billy Wilder wrote a lot of his stuff. The only thing is like his movies are Some Like It Hot, The Apartment, Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity, Sabrina, The Lost Weekend, like all these. The thing is with Billy Wilder is apparently when he first started, he wrote a lot of kind of like darker stuff, like Ace in the Hole and Sunset Boulevard. There wasn't a lot of comedy to it. And then he met this guy, I think his name was I.A.L. Diamond, and they became friends. And I.A.L. Diamond brought in all like kind of like a little bit more of like a humanistic kind of like comedic approach to some of the stories. So his movies started to have a little bit more comedy to them, a little more lightheartedness. So I think they were like a good team at that point. But he's done a lot of good movies.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I knew the answer to this already. Well, most of it, but the writers for or the screenplay adapters for Scott Pilgrim are Edgar Wright.
Oh yeah.
Also a director, this guy named Michael Bacall, and Brian Lee O'Malley, who's the one who wrote the comic, was also.
I think sometimes they do adapt their own stuff too.
Yeah.
Same with writers. What's her name? Gillian.
Which is smart.
Gillian Flynn, the one who wrote Gone Girl. I think she wrote the screenplay for the movie Gone Girl also.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some I think that adapt their own work. Stephen King might have even done that a couple times.
This Michael Bacall guy did 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street.
So like comedies.
And some Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But Edgar Wright, he wrote a shit
Shaun
ton
of the
of
Dead.
stuff. Yeah.
I know
He's
him
one
and
of my
Simon Pegg wrote
favorites.
those, which are some of my favorite movies.
Yeah, he's good.
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End.
He's a director too. Yeah, he wrote Baby Driver.
Yeah.
He's helped with Ant-Man.
I do think that for the most part, and there's probably exceptions to the rule, I think if you write what you're going to direct, a lot of times it's a better product.
Well, yeah. 'Cause
Sometimes
you know what you want.
Yeah,
in your
you
head.
know what as long as you're essentially decent at both,
Yeah.
I think it's fine. Like obviously, if you're not a great director or writer, it doesn't matter what you write if you direct it and stuff like that, because you're just that's not where your talent lies.
Right.
But like M. Night Shyamalan, I think it worked for him for Sixth Sense and Signs, but I think it's also been kind of his downfall with later movies because he kind of takes himself too seriously.
Yeah.
And his stories are kind of ridiculous. I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so celebrate whatever way you want.
Are you going to eat cake?
I think we eat cake for sure.
Gotta eat some cake.
Or send your favorite screenwriter a cake. Or just watch one of their movies and eat a cake.
And write a story about a cake.
And write a story and then, oh yeah.
And then eat the cake. Like
Eat
how
the
you
cake.
discovered the cake.
Yeah.
It was down a dark alley.
It's down a dark alley.
Dark alley.
Anyway.
A light rain drizzle.
I think that does it for National Screenwriters Day. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you, screenwriters.
Yeah, and we're going to get back to this. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. And fade out.
Fade out.
This has been a Seven Lamb production.